let's talk with a Spark researcher on why you might want to use a Spark dataset. This is Allison Moss, and she's coming to talk to us about some of the things that she's experienced with the Spark portal. And we have some great questions for her. And thank you for your time. So, briefly, Allison, maybe you want to introduce yourself and what is your field of research?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Allison. I am currently a graduate student working in a computational biology lab at Thomas Jefferson University. And I've been involved with the Spark project for a couple of years now, and a lot of our work focuses on neurons in the heart.
How did you become familiar with the Spark portal, and how long have you been involved?
So I think it was probably about 3 years ago. My lab had previously been involved in Spark, and somebody else left, and there was room and a need for somebody to come and analyze data and also be responsible for all of the portal upload and all of the data delivery and distribution to everyone. So I ended up being kind of thrown into that role, but it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, I think it's been about 3 years now.
So, are there any specific attributes which make it unique, the Spark portal, from other repositories of scientific data?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things about the Spark Folder is that they're still like working on it. See, it's great to see that they're continually trying to evolve it, but they're trying to make it much more interactive, which is a huge thing because a lot of the range of portals for data is crazy, and sometimes you get some that are super interactive and will give you exactly what you need, and other times you'll get a a bit blank computer screen and you just have to type something in and it doesn't work. So it's really been the range of how easy it is to get data and what format it is in is really variable across the board. So the Spark portal and the Spark team in general has been working really hard to make this data fair. So it's easily accessible by everybody and in a similar format. So that's really unique that for the most part, any data set you're looking at, you should be able to quickly figure out what it is and how to access it. But also the visualization and the, I guess, presentation on the portal itself, they're working on making it very interactive. So a lot of the questions you might have or things you might want to know, you can go in and look at it right there, which is really, really useful as if you're looking for something specific.
How has the ability of research data hosted on Spark aided you in your own research? Or how can you imagine this might help you in your future research?
Yeah, I think whenever you're looking for other data, especially I'm working in a big data field, so there's always other data to compare it to. You always want to find something to either validate your results or sometimes you do find something that contradicts your results and find reasons for it. So it's always about enriching what you have and backing it up with something else and placing it into a larger context. So especially in the Spark portal, but like also in general, being able to go and find data that is relevant to your work, or if I'm looking at specific gene expression, if I can go and find protein staining for us that the protein that gene encodes or something like that. There's a lot of different options and different ways to integrate what I'm doing into the broader science community. So going forward, it's always a thing to want to get more data and figure out how to incorporate that into what you're doing and bring it into a large context.
So, what kinds of data might you use, and how might you use it from the Spark portal?
So I think for everyone, it's easiest to go with what they're most familiar with. And I think part of what the Spark portal is trying to help do is help you access the things that you're not as familiar with. Because I'm a genetics or a genomics person, so I'm always looking at sequencing data. So a lot of times I can go in and I'll more readily look for sequencing data. Sometimes it'll be related to my work, and sometimes I'll say, okay, here are the pathways that are enriched in my data set. What if I'm looking at the lung instead of the heart? What are those genes doing there? So that's one way to look at things and compare. But I think it's also really important to incorporate the other data types. So a lot of times I'm looking at things at the gene level, and of course the next level is the protein level. So if I can go in and say, okay, here's what things are going on at the gene level, what's happening at the protein level, that adds a completely new layer and meaning to the data. And similarly, too, if you have electrophysiology data and there's all kinds of different data types that really, when the goal is to integrate, and the goal of Spark really has been to integrate all of these different data types together to try to answer a common problem. So being able to do that and find those things is really what's going to advance science in general.
So you yourself have contributed to the wealth of knowledge that's contained within the Spark portal. As a contributor, how might you like to see others using other researchers using the data from your contributions, and why?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Yes, we've contributed a lot of data. It's a lot of work to upload the data, but it's well worth it. I think in general, it's nice to see everyone uploading data. Having everyone have this fair data structure is really helpful to have. But I just like to see that somebody else can use what we have and apply it to their own things, sort of the same way I would look for somebody else. So I know some of our data sets include gene expression in 3D, so in the anatomical context of the heart. So, for somebody else to come in and say, okay, where is this gene most highly expressed? And if they can look at it on the Spark portal in 3D, they'll get that answer immediately and say, oh, this gene is really localized to this area. Or maybe they're not. Maybe this gene is just completely spread throughout, which is its own kind of information. So being able to just enrich anyone else's data with our stuff would be just super cool.
What kinds of opportunities are there for researchers in using data sets from the Spark portal? Like, how would you recommend researchers get started in their investigations and search for data sets? Were there any gems?
I think in general, when you're starting to look for data, I think you need to know what you're going to expect out of it going in. I think there are two ways to go about it. If you come in with a specific question, you want to find a specific answer to that question, and that gives you a very directed search for data. And the other way is almost the complete opposite, and just saying, okay, what can I find? And that gives you, a broad range of just seeing what's available and if it's something that you can access in an easy way and what that context might be. But the biggest thing is just knowing what you want to find going into it, because it's really hard to answer a question that you don't know what the question is. You need to have a question to answer it. And any hidden gems. There's just so much cool stuff on there. The fact that they're trying to integrate all the image data, all the 3D data, there's so many different little things on there. And I know there are some teams that have gone in and tried to, create artwork out of the image data, or just different 3D representations. I think at some point somebody talked about doing like 3D printing some of the tracings from some of the groups. So there's a lot. The possibilities are endless if you can get to it.
Thank you so much, Allison, for your time and for sharing with us some of your experiences with the Spark portal. And we really look forward to hearing what other people do with the data that is on here, and perhaps encouraging others to contribute to this portal and to the data sets that are here. So again, thank you so much.
Please contribute. It doesn't work if everyone doesn't contribute. It's a group effort.